Yeah, let's give it up for all the moms in the house. Yeah. Hey, and I want to take a minute and just honor the church moms here at Grace, the moms who've been around for years, the moms like Kay Brooks and Pastor Debbie Altman and Kristen Bonham and Gina White, Marilyn Hinders, and all of our campus pastor wives. Can we give it up for the church moms, everybody? Listen, we have no idea, you have no idea how much these women have saved you from dumb ideas. I'm telling you, we have a lot of dumb ideas, and they have saved you for them. Hey, my name is Mike, and I'm one of the pastors here at Grace, and I have the opportunity to work with all of our campus pastors and campuses, and also have the opportunity to be one of the campus pastors in South Tampa. And so glad I get to be here with you today for Mother's Day and celebrate with you. I want to show you a picture of the mother of our house. Her name is Leanne, it's my wife. We've been married 18 years, and those are our two boys, Karsten on the left and Bryden in the middle. They are now 16 and 14, and this picture was about a year and a half ago, and they would like you to know that they are bigger than their mom now. It doesn't look like that in the picture, but now they are. They're both big, and they're both boys, and we love Mother's Day. We love Mother's Day with two boys in our house. It's such a fun way for us to celebrate the only woman in our house. We get to celebrate her, and our rule in our house, and this is probably true in everyone's house, is Mom, we'll do whatever you want today. In fact, that's probably why you're in church for some of you, is your mom wanted you to go to church, and you showed up at church today because this is what we do on Mother's Day. And now we have some fun plans for the rest of the day. But when our kids were little, I remember the first time I went to my wife and said, hey, we have two kids now, it's Mother's Day. What would you like to do for Mother's Day? And I thought she would come up with an elaborate plan and she would really put it to the test. But I remember she said, you know what I want to do for Mother's Day? I want to go to a coffee shop by myself without the kids. And all the moms of young kids said, amen, right? Like, you need some time alone. And so whatever that looks like for you, I hope you're able to celebrate with your mom and spend some time no matter what she wants to do. And let me just say this. Let me speak for all the men today, especially all the dads. One of the things we didn't realize when we had kids was it was going to be our responsibility not only to care for our children and partner with you as moms to care for our children, it's also going to be our responsibility to make sure that the one holiday that celebrates you, Mom, is going to be on us. And the reason why that's a big deal is because for most of us men, anytime there's a holiday, anytime there's like anything that happens, you're the one who plans it all. In fact, on Christmas morning, I'm as surprised as my kids are to open their gifts. I'm like, oh, what do we get you? This is amazing. And then Mother's Day comes and suddenly you get taken out of the equation and it's on us to make it amazing. So let me just say this from all the men, we're sorry and we tried. We tried. Okay, we had good intentions. In fact, one of the best things that my wife started doing is she started texting me links to what she wanted for Mother's Day. She didn't text our kids, she texted me because it's on me. And I would just say this, one of the best things you can do, moms, let me just help you maybe alleviate some tension for your husbands or maybe for your kids. And if you're a single mom, you're like, hey, I don't have anyone to text, so let me help you. There's a tool out there, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's called Amazon. And if you order a gift on Amazon and forget about it, then 3 days later, it is as if you're getting a gift and you can call it a Mother's Day gift. In fact, my wife actually texted me this week and said, hey, just so you know, everything that I buy on Amazon this week, we're gonna consider a Mother's Day gift. Great. So we get to celebrate Mother's Day and this weekend, and today's message is really gonna be directed at you moms. You guys are the hardest working people on the planet. What you do is absolutely incredible, yeah. And this really is the day to honor you. And so we're gonna talk about 3 things that godly moms do. And hopefully as moms, you look at these 3 and go, hey, which one of these areas is an area for me to grow? But I would encourage you, if you're here with your mom or you're gonna be with your mom, I would encourage you to write these 3 things down. And later, if you go to brunch or you go to lunch, I would encourage you to spend time with your mom and go, hey, the pastor talked about 3 things. Let me tell you the one thing. Let me tell you the area that you just kill it as a mom. It will bless your mom if you pay attention at church, but it'll bless your mom if you actually tell her, hey, this is an area, and speak those words of life and encouragement to her. So 3 things that godly moms do. Now, to talk about that, we're actually gonna look at a godly mom in the Old Testament that we don't know a lot about, but we know a lot about her son, and it's actually the mom of Moses. And Moses' mom became a mom at a pretty interesting place in the history of Israel. Because Israel, some of you know the story, at one point there was a famine in the land and they moved into the nation of Egypt. And they moved into the nation of Egypt because Egypt was the only nation really around them that had food. So they moved in and they started to grow as a nation. It was weird because you had the nation of Israel living inside the nation of Egypt. Well, the nation of Egypt got a little bit scared that the nation of Israel was growing so much, so they tried to control the population. And one of the ideas they had to control the population was to take Israel and actually put them in slavery. And if we make them slaves, maybe they won't populate so much, and that actually didn't work. The opposite happened. They started growing as a nation more. So Pharaoh had the idea that one of the ways that we can control the population of the Israelites is we're gonna take all of the male boys that are born and we're actually gonna take them and we're gonna throw them into the Nile River. It's a terrible idea, but this was his idea to control the growth of the nation. And into this season of their history, Moses was born. And so 3 things that godly moms do. Exodus chapter 2, verse 1, it says, now a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. And when she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. The first thing that a godly mom does, a godly mom protects. A godly mom protects. In our house, we are Miami Dolphins fans. Yeah, there's like 2 here, but probably across campuses, people are going crazy right now because the Dolphins are so huge in Tampa. But when our kids were real little, my wife and I took them to a Miami Dolphins game, and we got to this game. We're so excited, such a great experience. I think it was our first Dolphins game we ever went to, and we find ourselves sitting in front of 3 guys that throughout the game, they were getting louder. I think probably the amount they were drinking helped with this. They were getting louder and they were cussing a ton. So they're behind us, they're getting louder, they're shouting all these cuss words, and we got our 2 little boys with us. And it was like that whole thing of, yeah, this is kind of a little bit awkward, but it's a football game, it is what it is. And that's what I thought. But my wife gave me a look, and she gave me a look. She kind of looks over at me, and her look when she looked at me, I knew what it was. It was, I'm gonna talk to these guys. Now, when she gives me this look of, I'm gonna talk to these guys, I give her a look back like, don't you talk to these guys. And I can make it sound good, like it's a football game, let them have fun. I didn't care about them having fun. My look of don't talk to these guys is, if you talk to these guys and they respond to you in a negative way, or they're rude to you, or they say something to you, as the dad, as the husband, as the man in this scenario, I'm gonna have to stand up for you, and there's a really good chance I'm about to get beat up in front of my kids at a Miami Dolphins game. And this is not what I intended for this experience. When we said, let's go to a Dolphins game, I didn't want my kids for the first time to see me get beat. That was not what I wanted. So I gave her the look of, don't you talk to these guys, don't do it. She ignored my look. And she spun around and she goes, hey guys, I don't know if you've noticed, but we have 2 little kids with us. Is it possible for you to like just pull back your cussing? Is it possible for you to pull it back? And they were great. They're like, we're so sorry, we didn't realize. We're like, how didn't you realize? Well, we didn't realize, we'll do. And the great thing about this is they were so remorseful, they were so sorry, but they didn't stop cussing at all. What they started doing was every time they cussed, they would touch my wife's shoulder and apologize. Cuss, I'm sorry, oh, I'm so sorry, oh, I'm so sorry. So the whole rest of the game, it actually was worse because they kept cussing, but they kept apologizing and touching my wife. So the whole time, she's getting tapped the whole time. For her, it was not great. For me, it was awesome. It was so fun. But because that thing in her is a mom to protect, right? Like if you have kids, again, we have 2 boys. And so I don't know how this works in every family, but in our family, our youngest son, he's the antagonist. He's the one who pokes and he pokes and he pokes and he prods and he prods and he prods. And then he wears out the patience of the older son. And when the older son's patience wears out, where does the younger son run? He runs to mom. He doesn't run to dad. In fact, I asked him this week, I said, hey, who do you run to? He said, I run to mom. I said, why do you run to mom? And he said, because mom will protect me. I said, well, why don't you run to dad? He said, because dad will give me consequences. And that's true. I'll give consequences, and I'll probably let your brother have a couple shots at you because you deserve it. But moms have this protection thing in them. It doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter what you did. A mom will protect. This is actually the way God has designed it. God has designed it because there's a chemical called oxytocin that actually releases into the brain of a mom. And there's a lot of studies that have been done that say that when a mom is with a child, she responds differently than when she's by herself. A mom, when she's by herself, will face danger and will typically freeze or run. But when you add her child into the mix, the amount of this chemical that's poured into the brain, it causes this fight mentality to actually go through it. My wife and I were talking recently about our kids because they're getting older, and we, probably like you, we talk about, hey, if someone ever breaks in our house, what do we do? Well, now that our kids are older, I brought it up to her. I said, hey, just so you know, if someone ever breaks into our house, like the plan was, we're gonna hide our kids in a closet somewhere, call the cops and do all that. But if someone breaks into our house, they're getting old, they're young men now. Like, I will need their help. And she basically said, you shut up. They are my babies, and they may be stronger than me because they can both, I think at this point, out bench press my wife. They may be stronger than me, but they don't have mama bear strength. That's what she said. Yeah, you moms know that. But there's just that thing about her. But let me encourage you with this, mom, that it's easy when it comes to that physical thing to protect your kids. But I would encourage you, the best way to protect your kids is through prayer. And my question for you is this weekend on Mother's Day is how often or how much are you praying for your kids? Because it's easy to want to protect them from things and easy to want to pull back from some things. And honestly, for a lot of us, we've stopped our kids from doing some things because like we're not sure about letting them do it. But one of the best ways to protect them is to pray for them. One of the best ways to protect their future marriage is to pray for their spouse right now. You don't know who they are, but there's a chance that spouse is alive right now somewhere on the earth. Are you praying for your future spouse? Are you praying for wisdom? Are you praying that your kids not just come to church, but fall in love with Jesus? The best way to protect our kids is to pray for them. Prayer is the best protection. Now, if you're here with your mom, or I'll just say this, if you're in this room or on any of our campuses, that means that you're not in our clubhouse, elementary, or middle school environment. So you're a teenager or above. It is the job of our moms to protect us. They will protect us, and honestly, it doesn't matter what age you get to, your mom will always protect you. But if you are a teenager or above, it's also part of your job to protect your mom. Part of your responsibility is to protect your mom, and it's not just physically. Sure, there's a physical element, but there's actually a commandment that talks about how we protect our parents. And Paul reiterates it in Ephesians. In Ephesians chapter 6, he says, honor your father and your mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and you may enjoy long life on earth. The way that we protect our moms, the way we protect our parents is to honor them. Our responsibility is to honor our parents. Now, I thought about how to illustrate what honor is like, and today with all the AI things going on, AI can do pretty amazing things. But imagine if AI were to follow you around, and if it were to hear every word you spoke to your mom, the attitude in which you spoke it, the eye rolls you gave her, the way that you interacted with her, the attitude you had moving in her direction, the jokes you made about her. Like, imagine everything that had to do with your relationship with your mom. AI was able to capture all of that and put it into a painting or a picture of your mom. Would that picture be a positive picture or a negative one? If it captured all of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions that went towards your mom and put it into a picture, would it be a positive one? The way that we honor is the way we talk, we act, our attitudes, our thoughts towards our mom, and doing it in a way that lifts her up and not tears her down. And that's the way that we protect our moms. If you're a teenager in the room, let me just say this. It is possible to disagree with your mom in a respectful way. You can disagree. You're not always going to remember. I tell my kids, the way that you show respect in your disagreeing is 3 ways. The words you use, the tone in which you use it, because we all know people who have said the right thing in the wrong way, and your face when you say it. Because if you say the right thing with the wrong face, you're gonna get in trouble. Like those three things. If you're a teenager, it's important. Control your tone, control your face, and say the right thing. It's okay. If you're in your 20s, you don't have to obey your mom, but you do need to honor your mom. If you have a mother-in-law, it is still your responsibility to honor your mother-in-law. That doesn't not apply to you. You married into it, you married into her, you also have to honor your mother-in-law. We need to protect our moms with honor. And then the story goes on. It says, but when she could hide him no longer, so she got to a place she couldn't hide her baby any longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. And his sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. So Moses' sister essentially follows him as he gets put into the Nile River. And then Pharaoh's daughter went down from the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. This is one of the Hebrew babies, she said. And then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you? So before Pharaoh's daughter could do anything, maybe she would regret, Moses' sister, who's standing by, speaks up and says, hey, I see that you found one of the Hebrew babies. Do you want me to go get one of the Hebrew women to help care for the baby? And then Pharaoh's daughter, she said, yes, go. So the girl went and got the baby's mother. So she went and got Moses' mom. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you. So not only do you get to be his mom, but I'm gonna pay you for it. So the woman took the baby and she nursed him. The second thing a godly mom does is a godly mom provides. A godly mom provides. Moms have a way of providing just what we need when we need it. Moms have a way of providing emotional support in those moments where we need emotional support. A godly mom has a way of providing encouragement when we need encouragement. A mom has a way of finding things that no one else in your house can find. I don't know if you have the same experience, but for me, I feel like in my house, I don't know what it is. When I start looking for things, I feel like my eyes get glazed over or they close. I actually don't know what it is. I feel like for me, and we have 2 boys, and listen, teenage brain is a real thing, everybody. I don't know if you know this, but I will literally stand in the refrigerator and go, we don't have any mayonnaise. And we have a little Amazon Alexa thing in it's called Echo in our house, and I'll stand in the fridge and go, we don't have any mayonnaise. And I'll go, Echo, add mayonnaise to the shopping list. And from the other room, my wife will go, we don't need mayonnaise, we have mayonnaise. And I'm like, well, I'm standing in the fridge, we don't have any mayonnaise. She will literally walk from the other room, walk in, reach in, grab the mayonnaise right away. And I just can't see it. I just lose stuff all the time. And I feel like in our house, she just has a way of finding stuff. I can look for it all day long, and it's like my eyes just miss it. As soon as I decide I wanna see it, I can't see it. But she just sees it. It's like a superpower that you moms have. I don't understand it at all. And it's not just me, because I've heard other moms actually talk about this and other people talk about it, and it is the craziest thing for us in our house. But a mom has the ability to provide just what we need. Moms provide a solution for any problems that come our way. They have the right words when we fight with our friends. They have words of hope when things are tough. They have wisdom in tough situations. You moms are providers. But I would say this. I would guess that for some of you moms, you've walked in this weekend to one of our campuses, and you give and you give and you provide and you show up and you give what you need and you give so much, but you've walked in this weekend and you're tired. You've walked in this weekend and you're spent. You've walked in this weekend and honestly, you feel like all you've done is given. And let me encourage you, moms, that you have to make sure you take care of yourself. One of the best things you can give your family is the healthiest version of yourself. And for moms, a lot of times we give. You give. I say we, I'm not a mom. You give. And you give so much, but you don't look to yourself. You don't care for yourself. You're not looking at your needs. But moms, we need you to look at yourself. There are three things that every mom needs. Let me encourage you with this. The first thing is you've got to make time for community. You got to make time for community. There have to be other moms around you that you can talk to, you can interact with. Like, you got to find it. We talk about groups here at Grace all the time, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a group here at Grace, but we have these groups because life was not meant to be lived alone, and you weren't meant to be a mom alone. You need other moms. Part of the reason is that for some of us, our kids are doing some things right now, and it is driving you insane, and you're pretty sure by the actions of your children, they're gonna end up in jail someday. Like, you just think, that's it, they're gonna end up in jail. Here's the good news. When you talk to other moms, you know what you realize? All of our kids seem like they're gonna end up in jail someday. And they might, I mean, there's a chance, but it just makes you feel better. And you just talk to the struggles, you go through the struggles. And let me just say this, if you're a single mom, like we recently did a study, around 40% of the moms at Grace Family Church are single moms. And let me just say this, you need community. You need some other people to talk to. You need some people to interact with. But we all need community. The second thing that every mom needs, they need to find time to lean into the strength of the Holy Spirit. God did not mean for any of us to live life alone, but he also never meant for us to live life without him. We need that time to pray and to spend time with him and spend time in his word and invite him into our situation and to take every situation and give it to him. There's a scripture in the word that says we cast our cares on him because he cares for us, and say, God, this is the care that I have. This is something that's on me, and I need to cast this on him. We need to cast our cares on him because he cares for us. We need to lean into the Holy Spirit's strength. And the third thing every mom needs is don't feel bad about expressing your needs, moms. Don't feel bad about it. There are moments when you need a walk. There are moments you need to have a conversation with an adult. There are moments you need a break from your kids. It's okay to need a break from your kids. Can we all just agree that we're all better parents when we can get away from our kids for a little while? Like, we're just better parents when we're away. I never love my kids more than after I've gone 3 days without them. Never, no, I'm not gonna say that. I was gonna say, never love them less than when I'm with them for 3 days straight. But never love them more. Like, there's something about taking a break. And there's something, honestly, and I've seen this with moms more than dads, this thing called mom guilt. Like, we've all heard this mom guilt. This mom guilt of, I can't ever get away from my kids. I can't ever get a babysitter for my kids. I can't ever, like, this whole idea of I can never separate from my kids. There's this mom guilt that looms that, honestly, I think it's based in fear. And this fear has given us this idea that we can never actually look to ourselves, because if I pay attention to myself at all, I'm not paying attention to my kids, and I'm worried that I'm gonna damage my kids. Let me just encourage you with this, mom. Like you can do so much, and you have to rely on God to fill in the gaps. You can't do everything. Your burden is greater than your ability. Your burden is greater than your ability. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, this is such a good verse, verse 9. It says, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power, this is God speaking, my power is made perfect in your weakness. And if you feel like, Mom, I've got to be there for everything, listen, you can't be there for everything. And if you try to be there for everything, you are going to wear yourself out. You have to, in those moments, realize that his power is made perfect in my weakness, and I am going to trust him. I'm going to let him fill in the gaps. Your God's, he's got you. And this is also true. I would say this, if you have kids that are older, it's probably, when I talk about, hey, godly moms provide, godly moms protect, it's easy to look back on your journey and go, I wish I would have protected more. I wish I would have provided more. And with social media, it seems like every other parent's providing more than we're providing. And so you have regret. Let me encourage you to forgive yourself. Let me encourage you not to live in that. That God will use your story and God will use your parenting to develop your kid in the way that they need to be developed. You have to trust that God is working. And his power will be made perfect in your weakness. So make time for community, moms. Make time for your relationship with God. Make time away from the kids, away from the kids. And then in verse 10, it says, when the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she named him Moses, saying, I drew him out of the water. The third thing a godly mom does is a godly mom prefers. A godly mom prefers. Now, this is the way that she preferred Moses at this point is that she essentially put Moses above herself. And she said, I'm gonna value him more than I value me, and I'm gonna allow him to live in royalty, live by himself in the palace. A godly mom prefers. Now, this is something that I feel like I was able to experience and see throughout my whole life. My mom, I would say, she preferred me throughout my whole life. Now, it was not necessarily easy because my mom and dad, they divorced when I was 4 years old. And my mom got remarried and then divorced and then remarried. And the guy that she was married to most of growing up, they're not married now, but most of growing up throughout my life, he was not a great guy, honestly. He was an alcoholic, but he wasn't just a drunk, he was a mean drunk. And if you ever grown in a home or been in a home with a mean drunk, like it's a very hard place to live. And my mom didn't drink, but she was kind of trying to balance out. She had 4 kids because I have 3 siblings, and she's got these 4 kids she's trying to balance out. She's got this guy who is an alcoholic, who's mean, who's just mean to us all the time, mean to her all the time. And she's trying to balance out, trying to make the marriage work, trying to make the kids work. And then over time, we became teenagers. And if you're a teenager in a home where you feel like the father figure doesn't like you, like it just didn't go very well. And we moved from Indiana down to St. Petersburg, Florida, and we lived there, and so we weren't around family. My dad wasn't around, and all I had was this stepdad who I was sure didn't like me. And so I started rebelling. I started gravitating towards people that actually I felt like accepted me, which were all the bad kids. I got in trouble with the law. There's actually a time my mom walked in and caught me. I was selling drugs out of my bedroom window at 16 years old. I started doing things that I shouldn't have done. I was incredibly disrespectful to my mom. I actually got into a gang over in St. Pete, and by looking at me, you probably all guessed that I was in a gang at one point in my life. And my relationship with my mom was rough. And she's trying to balance out these teenagers that are getting in trouble, getting arrested, all these things, and this alcoholic husband who doesn't want to be there, and she doesn't know what to do. And so the last time I got arrested, I remember sitting in the police station, and I'm sitting there and I'm mad, and I got this beanie on and it's pulled down, and I'm sitting there and I'm just ticked off. And I remember looking in a window, and my mom walks into the police station, and I think my mom's gonna go to the police officers and basically say, hey, my kid is a bad kid, throw him in jail, throw away the key, throw the book at him, whatever that looks like. But my mom, when I talk about she preferred, she saw beyond my actions, and she saw who I was. And she went and she pleaded with the police officers to instead of sending me to jail, to send me to go live with my dad in Indiana. And so the next day I got on an airplane, and for some reason they listened to my mom, because sometimes moms, you just have a way. And they listened to my mom. I got on a plane and I went to Indiana to live with my dad. And it was probably the best thing on the planet, because I lived with my dad. He forced me to go to church. I got saved. But a good way to end the story is then I got saved, and then my mom and I were good, but we weren't. We would talk, we would fight. We would barely talk, we would fight. And honestly, our relationship was splintered. And if you're in here this weekend and your relationship with your mom is splintered, or your relationship with your kid is splintered, and you don't know what's gonna do that, don't know what's gonna happen, that's where we were. She ended up moving back up to Indiana, and it just never, it didn't really get better. We just fought, and we tried to work it out, and it just couldn't seem to work it out. And then when I was 21, I moved down to Fort Myers, Florida, and we was a part of a church plant down there, and started a church and became a pastor. And it was amazing because we just kept talking, and I started praying, and I started going to counseling and started working through some things. And it was as if God was breaking down the walls of my heart. The Holy Spirit was speaking to me and breaking down walls of my heart. And it was like he was moving in my life, and it was like little by little, suddenly the relationship wouldn't have such the edges. The edges started coming off, and little by little, and then she divorced the guy she was with. She married, the guy she married next, he's the best guy on the planet. She married this guy, and then I got married, and she loves my wife. And then I had kids, and I'll tell you what, when I had kids and she became the grandparent of my kids, it was like I saw my mom come alive in a way that I've never seen her come alive before. She loved them extremely well. I had somebody tell me one time, and this is so true, that when you have kids, it gives your parents the opportunity to essentially fix the things they did wrong with you. Like it's like their redo, their ultimate redo. And if you let it, you can heal some of the wounds you have by the way that they grandparent your kids. And God was using all this to break down walls, break down walls. And it was like our relationship was slowly becoming restored. I didn't know if it ever would, but it was being restored. And the whole time, no matter what happens, no matter what I say, she's preferring me. She's putting me above my actions. And then in 2016, we moved to Tampa, Florida. We moved to Grace Family Church because Grace had bought the Winn-Dixie down in South Tampa and said, hey, we need a campus pastor. We came up to be the campus pastors. And I remember in 2016, I'm standing against the back row watching, before the service started, watching them practice, watching the band practice, and I'm standing there looking, and next to me, I randomly have this, like, you know how somebody stands too close to you, like awkwardly close? I have this person stand awkwardly close, and I'm not really paying attention, but I kind of notice that, like, this person's like awkwardly close. But some people, they're just close standers or close talkers. You know, people that are like close talkers, and you have to like put a foot back. Here's the trick, by the way, because I have to do this. You put a foot back and you kind of lean back a little bit, and the foot tends to be the barrier, but then sometimes you got to pivot a little bit to stay away from them. And so I just think that I just have a close talker standing next to me, and I'm standing there, and then this person comes closer, and I can tell in my peripheral that they have long hair, so I'm assuming it's a woman, and now this woman is like standing awkwardly close to me until finally I'm like having to do something, and I turn, and it's my mom. And without telling my wife, without telling me, she knew that we were launching this campus. She knew how big of a deal it was. She flew down, got a hotel, and just showed up on launch day. And it was like a bridge was built. And so my mom and I, it was like the relationship started going, the walls seemed to have been down. And then when she turned 60, she decided that a good idea for her was to go and start riding motorcycles. She bought a Harley because her husband rides Harleys, and it was like a dream for her. It was as a kid who grew up with a mom who was married to such a bad guy, for her to be married to such a good guy and to do things that she always wanted to do, it was like, to watch her experience, it was like the coolest thing. The bad part about it, though, is about a year later, she got into a motorcycle accident. And she got thrown off her motorcycle and essentially broke the right side of her body. And I remember she called me, and it was probably the only time I've ever had my mom call me, and she was scared because they told her that she had blood clots, and at any minute they could throw a clot and it could all be over. And I remember hearing the fear in her voice, and I just decided at that point, I'm just gonna call my mom every day. I'm gonna talk to her on the phone every day. And God used it to grow our relationship from her being my mom to her being one of like the closest people in my life. And then on March 14th, 2022, she called me because she was diagnosed with bile duct cancer. And if you don't know what that is, bile duct cancer, it's a very rare form of cancer that has no cure. And I remember when she told me that they had given her 6 to 18 months to live, and she's crying, and of course I'm crying. And it's one of those things of what are we gonna do? And during that season, I said, I don't know what to do, but I'm just gonna come. And I remember I talked to Pastor Craig and Debbie, and I talked to Pastor Chris and Kristen here at Grace. And if you don't know them very well, let me just tell you this. In that season, they basically said, you go as much as you need to go. And I went more probably than I should have, more than they should have let me go. But I said, you need to be with your mom. And I remember going up there, and I remember, my mom preferred me my whole life. And to watch her do it with my kids was so special. I remember during that season, she's going through chemo treatments, and I bring my kids up there, and the whole goal is we're just gonna sit with you and hang out with you. And she goes, no, we're not gonna just sit around. We're gonna go do something fun with the kids. And I'm like, Mom, we're not gonna go do something fun with the kids. And she was so aggressive towards me. And she said, we're gonna have fun with your boys and they're gonna remember this. They're not gonna remember me sick. And so we went and played putt-putt. And we played putt-putt together, and she's having to like sit down because she's winded playing putt-putt. And she cared more about them than herself. She preferred them more than herself. And then in August of 2022, I got the call, flew up there, and she passed away. And the reason why I tell you that story is Mother's Day, hopefully it's joyful, but I think for some people, you walked in and the relationship with your mom is rough right now. Or you've walked in and your relationship with your kid, like you don't know if it's ever gonna come back. I am so glad my mom didn't stop fighting for my relationship. I'm so glad that in spite of how I acted and how stupid it was, my mom should have cut me off. My mom should have written me off, but she chose to keep fighting for my relationship. And my encouragement to you this weekend is, I don't know where your relationship with your mom is. I don't know where your relationship with your kids are. I don't know where that is right now, but the working power of God can restore a relationship. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad that God did not allow me to build up all the walls, that God didn't allow her to build up all the walls, that God still put that thing in me to, hey, keep going, and put that thing in my mom to keep going. And I'm so glad she kept fighting. Moms, keep fighting for the relationship. Kids, keep fighting for the relationship. Kids, you gotta forgive your parents. Listen, if you're one of the greatest ways to forgive your parents for anything you think they did wrong is to become a parent. Because when you become a parent, you realize it's hard. It's hard. It was hard to raise you. You need to forgive. They didn't do it right. There's no book, there's no manual, and most people don't know what they're doing. You gotta forgive your parents. And so what I wanna do, the way I wanna close this weekend is, for those of you who are at that place where your relationship with your mom is splintered, or your relationship with your kids are splintered, I'm gonna invite the campus pastors and all the campuses to come up because I want them to lead you in this moment and pray for you in this moment. So campus pastors, will you come up and pray?